Good morning. It is the morning of the third day. It's late in the morning. It's a little after 10 a.m. and surprisingly I feel very well. I still have a slight irritation, headache, but the hot shower seems to sort all of that out and I'm feeling good. Now, because I've done this a couple of times, I understand what will be happening in my body from an experience point of view. I know what I'm going to experience. Explaining that to you in medical scientific jargon might be a bit of a challenge. But what happens is, on this day, the third day, the sugar reserves, the carbohydrates and the proteins that we have locked up in our bodies, in our muscles, is going to stop being used as the main fuel to keep our body going, to keep our organism going, and it's going to start looking to use fuel from somewhere else. Now, that's where our system that wants to keep everything in balance. Remember the word we learnt together? What was that word we learnt? Homeostasis. Homeostasis. That aspect of our being kicks in on the third day to keep us going, because there's no more of what we ate the last couple of days before we started fasting. There's no more of that. It's being used up in our muscles and in our tissues and in the places where it was stored. It's been used up. Now the body has to start looking for another source of energy, and it's going to go to our fat cells. The fat cells, exactly where, I'm not sure how it works, but it's going to start looking at our fat cells. And this is also where a lot of the cleansing starts happening, because a lot of the toxins that are retained in our system are retained in our fat cells, and it's also like spread out. I mean, our fat cells are basically spread out all over our body. I mean, you generally aren't fat in one place. You're fat all over if you're fat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you put on weight all over. If you have a bit of size to you, then you have the fat cells spread out underneath your skin all over your body. So that's where it starts taking the fat cells, our body, our system, starts taking the fat cells from the places where the fat is, and it starts using it to keep us going. Now, what's actually happening here is we're actually changing. Like our physiology is changing. The way that our body works is changing. Now, the very idea that our body can change like this presents some dynamic of reality that maybe we are not accustomed to because of the way our civilization has progressed. I mean, I love food, don't get me wrong. And, you know, we get told and we get taught by the dietitians and nutritionists that loving food in its excesses is wrong. But is it really wrong? I mean, let's workshop this a bit. In the days of the Mammoth and the Caveman, and when we didn't have everything we have in so much abundance that we've acquired since the Industrial Revolution, I mean, I'm sure that eating was one of the main parts of our existence. I mean, fasting was just as much a practicality of life as eating. In other words, we would either be in a feasting scenario or in a fasting scenario. That's where our mentality comes to just eat, because it's in us. It's in us. We want to eat. and we want to eat a lot, and we want to stuff our faces. And why? Because we were made like that. It's just our breakthroughs that we've had since the Industrial Revolution, and everything has become industrialized, and we've got all the different supermarkets that have got so much of everything ready to buy anytime. Our society has changed so much so that the norm is to eat without stopping our whole lives. But what if, indulge me here, what if the norm was to feast and then to abstain from food, to feast and then to abstain from food, to feast and then to abstain? Because, I mean, I love eating. I mean, when I get to a stage like this where I think about the stuff I like to eat, because invariably that will happen unless you have the endurance of focus or the discipline. Unless you have that, you're not gonna. You're gonna want to eat. You're gonna want to eat. And what's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with that. That's part of our nature. It's our society that has turned things around through our industrialization, through our achievements and our modern manness, the way we become more in everything, the way we become more, and we think we understand so much about everything. But I mean, what do we really understand? I mean, when you stand here in a place like this and you look at the mountains almost become hypnotic. You can just stare at them. It's like looking at fish in a fish tank, or a beautiful scenic view of nature anywhere. It becomes hypnotic. Why? Because there's that part of us that longs for that reality of being in the days of the caveman and the mammoth. There's that part of us that wants that. We remember that. It's in our genome. It's in us. And fasting was as much a part of our lives as feasting was. The reality is that because of the way our civilization has advanced, feasting has become our way of life. So, like, you know, I don't know if you guys know what scones are. A scone, it's a dough that's cooked in an oven, and you have the scone. It comes out the oven. You put like butter on it and it melts, and you put jam on it, or you could just put butter on it, or you can just eat it like that. I mean, I think about things like that, or a bowl of oats, rolled oats, jungle oats. In this country we call it jungle oats. And you put butter or margarine, you cook it with salt, butter or margarine, and you can put sugar or honey or syrup or whatever in that with a bit of milk. You know, those are the things I start craving for. I start craving for those tastes. Those are the tastes I crave. But I mean, those are synthetically created tastes, you know. And what are the tastes that we should be craving? You know, what should we be wanting to eat? What is it that we really want to taste? You know, and somehow with fasting, with abstaining from food, it might be possible to get our genome that remembers the mammoth and the caveman days. It remembers that, and it also remembers what were the good things to taste. So somehow getting in touch with nature and getting in touch with that pool of genetics inside us that remembers who we were, that we've forgotten, but it remembers who we were, will want to taste other things. What those other things are, you know, there's probably fruits involved there, there's probably meat involved there, because our diet consists of a lot of fruit, shrubs, meat, fresh meat. So yeah, it's just something for you guys to think about. I mean, I'm feeling good, and I'm really stimulated by making these clips, and it really gives me focus to make these clips. But I also want this to be something that can help somebody out there that is just a regular person that loves to eat, that is grossly overweight and thinks they cannot go without a meal. You know what? It's easier than you think. It's a lot easier than you think, and it's not as difficult as the medical fraternal makes it out to be. It's not as dangerous, it's not as difficult. I mean, they'll give you all sorts of reasons why you can't do it, and they will tell you things that your body's not ready for. And I mean, one of the things that they argue is that your body will go into shock, you'll become bloated, and you'll become constipated, and you won't be able to pass the solids and the liquids in your system that you regularly need to. You know what? You might become a bit constipated, you might become a bit bloated, but after 3 or 4 days, trust me, something will move and it'll be good. And when you see what comes out, you will be encouraged. You know, because that stuff's not going to come out until you give the body chance to become what it is. And inside of you, inside your being, inside your body, is your own health expert. And the health expert that's inside of you is waiting for you to understand that all you have to do is to abstain from food for a little while, and the health expert inside of you will start fixing you. So you don't have to have a degree or, you know, go and do a PhD or whatever it is that these guys do to use the word health. You are your own being, and you are a being that has a signature of health encoded in your blood. It has a signature of health encoded in your blood, and you need to listen to that. I mean, when you get really sick and you lose your appetite, what is that? How do you explain that? I mean, I love food and I love eating, but sometimes I get so sick, you know, without fasting, without thinking about fasting, I just get so sick, and then I stop eating. Why? Because that's my body's own way of telling me, hey, you need to stop eating because there's something I need to do here to fix what is wrong with you. And there's no switch for that. It just happens. I mean, that's just the shadow of the truth about the health expert that's inside of you, the professional health expert that's inside of you. And all that health expert needs is a chance for the signature that is written in the blood to start exposing itself for what it really is. And that is a way of fixing the body from the inside by itself. So please, I want everyone to be encouraged that this is not an unattainable thing, and it's not as difficult as we think it is. It's not as difficult as we make it out to be. Me getting away and taking time out and getting closer to nature is a way that I deal with just breaking the norm to get into the fast, to do it. And that's what I encourage anybody to do. But it doesn't mean now you have to do this way to do it. I mean, you can be so encouraged that you can just go and do this, you know. So yeah, be encouraged and really, you know, think about it and start putting some thought to it, and start doing your own research. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of research you can do, and yeah,